It's me, Tamara from Cat Stitches, and I am super glad to be bringing another Flosstube video to you today. It is the 25th of August. Happy Friday if you're watching this today. It's been about a month since my whip parade, and there are a lot of new faces here, and it's just been a really busy month. It's summer break for my son, so he's just having a great time. He's 6. So he's, you know, he's in and out and he's all about. And so you may hear some background noises of him, you know, having a good time. Or I may have to stop the video if he needs something from me in particular, if nobody else can solve his problem but Mom. But I did want to just bring a new video to you because it has been a month and I have a lot of things that I want to share with you. I have a fully finished object. I have no finishes, but I've got 13 whips to show you. As well as I had a birthday in there, so I have a lot of gifts that I received. And then just some extra haul. So strap in, it's going to be a long one, I think. Probably not as long as the whip parade, but you know how it goes. Sometimes you just start to ramble. So take it in pieces if you need to. And you know, if you're new here, welcome. I'm really happy that you've, you know, you're trying this channel out, and I hope that you find something that you like. And you know, as always, happy to have a conversation below in the comments. Lots of new comments last time. I really appreciate it. It's so great to get to chat to you and chat with you, just to talk about stitching. And yeah, so the first thing that I fully finished was the whip that actually, the work that brought me back into cross stitching back in 2020. I think like a lot of us, right, we came back to stitching, or we started stitching if we were new to it. And so I started this because it was about to be my husband's birthday, and I wanted to get him something that, you know, was handmade. I love making handmade gifts. It's something that I have loved doing throughout our marriage. Now we're working on 13 years. And so I love to give him some handmade items, and I wanted to get him something that was meaningful, but also kind of funny. And one of those things is that, just a little back history, I could not stand The Office, the TV show. He was always watching it, and it was on in the background, and I always thought the main character, Michael, was kind of like the worst manager you could imagine. And so I couldn't get into it. And then one year he asked if I would just watch it with him. And I did, and I ended up loving it. You know, we watched all of it. The first season was really hard because that's like the worst season for Michael. I stitched this. This is the Office piece. I actually don't think it's on the Etsy seller site anymore. It's Stitch Area. I think you can still get like the Gilmore Girls one, but I didn't see this one last time I checked. So I finished this. It took me a long time because I stitched this on 14 count Aida, and I couldn't find a hoop that was the right size. So it's supposed to be in a hoop finish, but I couldn't find, like, I didn't do my math correctly, right? So it took a long time to finish it, and it's still not perfect. You'll see that this is not a perfect circle because I actually hand carved the foam for this, for the background. So it's just mounted on a piece of foam, which I then glue. I laced it. No, I didn't lace it. I'm sorry. I pinned it, and then I glued it, and then I attached this pom-pom trim from Lady Dot Creates. And this was actually just like a wooden plaque that I got from Michael's, and they had it on clearance. So this is a 15-inch round, and it was damaged, but again, you're not going to see that from the front. And really, I just wanted to get it finished, right? Like, I wanted to get him this ability to hang this instead of it just being, you know, hung up on a hanger in the closet. So I stitched this in a month. I started, and at first I had been knitting at the time, and it was really slow, and it was hard, and you can see I didn't pick the best. This is supposed to be like a different color. I didn't have the right DMC, but I was making do with what I had because, again, pandemic, I wasn't working. There's a lot of memories in this. You know, we had therapists coming in and out of the house for my son. He's autistic. I don't know. I think I mentioned that before. So it was just a lot. And this was like my, this mom time, right? This was my time. And I had to work on it when he wasn't here. And so it was, yeah, it was really happy to get this finished. And now that I showed it to you, he can take it to his job and hang it up in his office. So that's my finish. Again, it's not perfect, but does it do the job? Absolutely. It absolutely does. And I'm really proud of it. So that's my fully finished object. Okay, whips. So I had a couple of days left in July before, after the podcast that I had a couple of days left in July after the Flosstube video I did. And so I did a couple of regular days of stitching, and then I switched over to Arbitrary August. So for Arbitrary August, I follow Michelle Bendy from Bendy Stitchy. I have the Tiny Decisions app. I put all of my whips in there, which was really convenient because I had just done a whip parade. So there was no hiding from the whips. And then I just spun and found things, you know, it would land on something, and then I would have another decisions wheel that had amounts of stitching or time. So it went anything from like 100 stitches to 300 stitches to things like 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, a motif, and then 25/7, which I actually hasn't landed on. So what I have here is the 13 whips that I worked on, including a couple of days in July, and I'll tell you the amount of time that I worked on them just in days. So on some days I worked on multiple projects, and then other days I didn't. So sometimes, you know, the day count isn't going to necessarily be like a whole day of stitching. I work full time. That's just not possible. I wish it was possible. So, okay. Sorry, I had to do a little rearranging. So the first thing I worked on was Spring Fairy, which is a Dimensions Gold collection. It looks like this. So I am pretty excited about it. I've taken all of the floss off of the cards that Dimension gives you, and I put them on a floss ring because I find that easier to work from. And this is what it looked like last time you saw it. And this is what it looks like now. So I've brought the purple down, I've brought this tree down, not a lot, but I did work on this 4 separate times. So 4 separate days. Again, not a lot of stitching, but the idea for Arbitrary August is to kind of just cycle through your whips. So that was the first one. And I am enjoying it. I'm not enjoying the sort of dimensions part of it, which is to use like 3 strands or 4 strands, like tent stitch. But I'm trying to get over it. Okay. The next thing I worked on is Crystal Ball, which was a mystery chart. I'll show you what it looks like here. I don't think I have the finished piece. But for this one, I did my own floss conversion. So I'm using a combination of like Roxy Floss Co., Classic Color Works, Color and Cotton, and, you know, just working with those. And this is on a piece of 40 count Elephant Run by Fox and Rabbit. This is what it looked like before. And this is what it looks like now. So this is one strand of floss over 2 fabric threads, and what I did is I filled in here. I started bringing the crystal ball up. I started filling in this book, which the white stitches, you know, they're not the neatest, but hopefully you'll be looking at it more like from this distance rather than, you know, right up close. I think they've gotten better the more I've stitched, but they're still not great. But it's fine, I don't care. It doesn't have to be perfect. So that's that one. And some things are going to be in hoops and some things aren't, and it's really just a matter of like this is going to be coming up soon to Halloween stitching, which I'm getting in the mood for, so I left it in the hoop. And this is a WIP I started last year, so it's not yet a year old. All right, let's put this back here because otherwise we're going to have a mess. All right, so the next thing I worked on is Garden of Erie, which is from Plum Street Samplers. And it's going to be a little glary. Let's see if I can just try and get the best picture for you, because it's a photograph. So it's Garden of Erie. I love this sampler. It's just a great take on you might hear snoring from my dogs. It sounds like an old man. So this is, I just love this. It's a great take on the Adam and Eve sampler. Oh, for Crystal Ball, sorry, I worked on that four times. And some of them were just like 100 stitches each. For this one, I have worked on it 4 times as well. This is on a 30 count primitive hair from, it's 40 count primitive hair in Old, I think it's just Old Salem, with the called for DMC, 2 strands over 2 fabric threads. And I worked a lot on getting this tree done. I added in some of the birds and the apples. That's what it looked like before, and that's what it looks like now. So I did a good amount of stitching. I'm pretty proud of what that one looks like, and I'm really enjoying stitching on it. I wasn't sure I was gonna like stitching on this linen because it's really uneven and it's a little gappy, but I think it's actually, like, for these kinds of pieces, it's a real delight. And I'll bring it in a little bit so you can kind of see. It's really cool. You can see I do my Danish method up here. One leg at a time. I started this one 7/15, so it's gotten a lot of progress. You can tell I'm really enjoying working on it because it's gotten significant progress in such a little time. Okay, the next one I worked on is AIO 1844 from Modern Folk Embroidery. This is the finish sampler. I love this. I started this in Black Sampler November last year, so that's not very old. This is what it looked like last time you saw it. I'm stitching it with the Roxy Floss chalkboard, which is the called for. And I'm stitching it on a 40 count piece of Fox and Rabbit Eureka. And a little hard to show because it's the linen is really soft. So this is where I am now. So I've brought over, I call these like cilantro leaves. I've brought these cilantro leaves over and I filled those in. I want to get the top done of the cilantro leaves, and then I want to put in the rest of the animals. There's like more birds. There's two swans that are facing each other. There's a central motif of birds. There's another dog, and then another peacock. But oh, it looks so beautiful, doesn't it? And I'm doing this. The floss chalkboard is actually, it's a really variegated floss. But I do, let's see if I can explain it. So what I do is for each one of these little leaves, I stitch it in half stitches, and then I come down and fill it in, and then I do the next one in half stitches and I fill it in, and I do, and then I do, as you can see here, like half stitches around, because it's not so heavily variegated that you can't still get a really nice effect. Because at a distance you can see that there is, well, maybe not like that. At a distance you can see that there is some good variegation still coming through, and it's just a little bit more of like a heathered effect maybe. And I'm really enjoying that, and I'm enjoying not having to worry about crossing every X and planning my route. It's the way I'm stitching it is just really calming. It's really calming. And I haven't said it, but most of my needle minders are going to be from Mad for Minders on Etsy. A couple exceptions. There's probably an Evertotes one in here, and maybe a Fangirl Fibers, but most of them are going to be Mad for Minders. And that got two days of stitching, so not a lot. Next is the Greenhouse of Oddities from Lola Crow Crossstitch. This is what it looks like. It's actually finished, so it was a mystery style. This is the finish of what it looks like. I am not caught up, though I did put a lot of work in this. This has 6 days, or it got called 6 times on the wheel. I'm stitching it in the called for DMC. I'm stitching mine on 28 count hand dyed by Rolanda. This is what it looked like before. And maybe this, oh geez, is what it looks like now. It's getting big, a little hard to show. 28 count, it's going to be a big one. This is what it looks like now. So you can see I've finished this side pretty much. I still have to finish the ground, and there's still some stitching up in this corner, and I still have to do some of the back stitching. But I've done a lot of really, really good work on that side, and I love the colors. I think it's going to be beautiful, and I can't wait. So it's looking really, really nice. And you'll see I have a string here. This thread here is because I had started working on, oh goodness, I had started working on this tree here, but I was afraid I was going to start miscounting because there's a lot more filling in here that I needed to do, so I just parked the thread out of my way so that I could come in and do some more of the stitching down here on the bottom, because I didn't want it to get off, because I still have the entire top of the greenhouse to do, and I just didn't want to get off. And speaking of which, you'd never know, but there are a ton of mistakes in this area. From this tree up, everything is fudged. But you can't tell unless you looked at it really close. And even then, I think it still looks good. Like it's not, nothing is out of place, it doesn't look like. So, and that's the goal, because otherwise I would have had to frog so many things. So, love that fabric. This is a one of a kind. It doesn't have a name. It's like a solo dye. So, not replicable. And speaking of which, this is a Fangirl Fibers needle minder. It was in the Haunted America box. I think that's right. So that had 6 days of stitching. So I put a lot of work into that one. And now that it's finished, I'm like super eager to get to it. All right. Next up is Thurza Priscilla Dawes from Hemlock and Rye Stitchery. The finished will look like this. I'm doing the brighter version, which is like from the back of the sampler. I worked on this 4 days. I am doing mine on a 32 count Oaken by Picture This Plus, but I'm doing a sulky conversion that I made up. So sulky threads. Some of them, it's not a 1-for-1 conversion. There are 2 colors which there wasn't a good match for. Wasn't a different enough match for some of the reds and browns. So I used a color that was very close, but also had already been used. And I think it's fine. They're not anywhere near each other, so it's not like a shading issue. It was more just of a tone issue. So this got 4 days. I can't believe it got 4 days. This is what it looked like before. Oh, I know why I got 4 days. So this is what it looked like before. And the frog came to visit me on this one because I had to take out, I had started stitching the berries in this berry bowl, and then I realized that my bowl itself was 2 stitches too high, so that it was like more wide, and I couldn't fudge it. To fudge it, I would have had to frog, and at the point where I was already frogging, I was just gonna make it right. So there was some negative stitching, and then I came in and I finished this. I added this little greenery, and then this, sorry Thurza, it looks like a bearskin rug to me, or maybe a sheep throw. I think it's supposed to be a flower. So I did that. And it's 4 days. I mean, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece. I'm losing a little bit of steam on it because I'm getting close, right? The bottom is not that far down from here. So there's just these motifs on the side here, and I'm ready. I'm at the point where I want it done, but I haven't yet gotten the steam to like just finish it. So she's probably going to go away for a little bit. I'm not going to work on her in September. We'll talk about plans later. But she got a good amount of work done, and she's getting close. So that's my Thurza. And I keep Thurza in a dot goose bag. And there's no pattern on the front, but it's a vinyl front bag. Okay. The next thing I worked on was a new start. So I was getting a little burnt out by Arbitrary August at this point. So I did start something new, but I just put it into the wheel as well, so it could come up again and be counted as a whip after the first day. And so I started Hair and Needle. They're on Etsy. I started the Sleepy Hollow piece, and let me just, yeah, it's just called Sleepy Hollow. And the only picture is a computer generated one, which is not like the best to see what it is, but this is the pattern, and I love this. before we had our son, but after we were married, we went up to Sleepy Hollow because I'm in New Jersey, so it's not a very far drive. And it was a really nice like date weekend, getaway weekend. So Sleepy Hollow and the story of Sleepy Hollow is it's like a pleasant memory for me. And I am also stitching this in an overdyed conversion that I came up with. Some of the called for DMC. So instead of 310, I'm using Roxy Flossco Vampish. Instead of pewter gray, I'm using blackboard. And if you want the conversion, I can give it to you. But there's not that many colors in there yet, so. You can see these are the flosses, though. I am stitching this on a 35 count piece of primitive hair in Old Salem. And this is where I've gotten to. This is another Fangirl Fibers. So I center started in this, and I love this fabric because it's got these like great splotches of dye. I think it's gonna look old, and I think it's gonna be great. So I've started working on a dress, and these stitches here in the, I think it's ecru, it's her hands, like the shadows of her fingers. You can't really see it, and you might not be able to see her flesh tone all that well, so I may do some back stitching. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. So that was a new start. This got, after the first day, it got another 4 days of stitching, so 5 days total stitching. And there's a lot of stitching in here. This black is Vampish, and the gray is DMC 02, so one of the new colors, which was called for. Enjoying that quite a bit, but also like after I had the new start, I was ready to go back to Arbitrary August, so it was just the little bit of break that I needed. The next thing I worked on was Halloween Quaker, so I was really excited to pull out another Halloween piece. This is from Leela's Studio. It's going to be a little glary because it's the shiny paper, but I'm sure you know what it looks like. Everybody has stitched this, except me. I haven't finished it yet. I started this, oh gosh, probably, we have the date here, 9/15/21. So we're coming up on our second birthday. This is what it looked like in the whip parade. So last time you saw it. And it got 3 days of stitching. I'm stitching this on a 32 count piece of Picture This Plus Opalescent Eke. Oh, it's going to be a little hard to show. 1 second. Again, the fabric is really floppy, so this is what it looks like. So you can see I brought the village over on the bottom, and I've started working on the central motif with the witch, and some of these little doodly-doos. I filled in the hat a little bit, and I finished this motif. Is that all I did? Oh, and I think I finished this motif. I think that one wasn't finished yet. So, really enjoying it. I love the way the village looks, and I love how it looks like at a distance. I think there's just something, like, this is originally stitched on Murky, but during the pandemic, Murky was impossible to get a hold of, but I could get a hold of this, and I thought it would look good. And I think the oranges are different enough. I'm stitching this in mostly the called for, but some exceptions. I think my purple, it calls for an over dye, and I'm instead doing the blend, DMC blend. This orange, I didn't have the called for, so this is a silky floss, this sort of brownie orange, but I think it works. And it's gonna be big because it's not gonna take all this fabric, but it's probably gonna be what, like that. So I'm not even halfway, but that's fine. It's a real joy to work on. It's also my first Quaker, so there are a lot of mistakes. Not as many as I would have thought, but there are definite mistakes. But the nice thing about a Quaker is that as long as it's not too big of a mistake, you can fudge it very easily. Okay, so the next thing I worked on was Prairie Schooler Summer samplers. I am doing the center, which is Summer, the sun shines upon all alike. Is that right? Yes. And this got a 3-day call. It's the only 3-day call I've had. I'm stitching it in the called for DMC because I absolutely love the colorway and I love how it looks. I just had started this last month. I started the 716. It's on 28 count mushroom Lagana. I did replace one of the, I replaced 3363 with 3364 to better show the contrast against the green. I think my 3363 was just a darker green. So I used 3364 to just bring out the contrast, and I have to bend down to get this one because it's still on my scroll frame. But last time you saw it, it looked like this. And then, oh my goodness, it's on my Hearthside Craftsworks frame. And this is what it looks like now. How beautiful is that? Oh, I love it so much. So I finished this bottom band, I have finished this block, and I have started working on this side. Isn't it gorgeous? I love those colors so much, and I am so excited. So excited. Oh, I can't wait. I want to stitch more of it, but it's okay. Oh, that Hearthside Craftswork frame is not a joke. It's got some heft to it. Okay, we're coming up towards the end. So my next item is a new start, and you know, this wasn't because I was feeling a certain way about Arbitrary August, but actually one of our kitties passed away. She was 20 years old, and she was my husband's cat before we got married, but we've known each other for 20 years, so I did know them as kittens. And yeah, it was a hard day. It was, you know, I'm okay because she had a really long, great life, but I wanted to stitch something in memoriam for her, so I started the Cat Tapestry by Tiny Modernist. And yeah, she was a great kitty. She looks like this black and white one, so I'm gonna change the fur a little bit so that it looks more like her. She had a bigger white belly, so her name was Kelly. So that'll be my little Kelly baby. So I started this in the 810, and I'm actually going to use it as a memoriam for all of the cats that me and my husband have lost since we've been married. We have two others, Finian and Benny, who were also old. So Finian looked like this gray one, and then Benny was a tabby, so I'm probably going to change this orange cat to look like a tabby. And I think, you know, it's just a nice thing. And I'll think of them every time I look at it and when I work on it. So I'm stitching this in the Called For DMC. And I didn't get a lot of work on it. It was a hard day, but I did want to just get my stitches in on that day. And it's on 40 Count Cypress by Fiber on a Whim. It's going to be hard to get the exact color of the fabric, I think, but yeah, it's a lot more green than this. It's showing up a little gray. Maybe if I angle it that way. No, that's even worse. That's more gray. It's a green fabric. And I don't have a lot of stitching. I just got a couple of colors in to see how it would look. I'm never gonna get, this is gonna be a problematic fabric, I can already tell. Anyway, so I just got some of those stitches in for her, and I put it on my whip spin, and it did come up once, and I wasn't ready to work on it. So it might be one of those things that just takes me a little bit, but I was really happy to get it started and, you know, to think about her. The next thing that I worked on was from Teresa Kogut, and it is the Green Coat Santa, which I got as a Patreon pattern. And I just have a printed out version. This is what it looks like. So, big Santa, little house, little deer. I started this July of last year. And this got 2 days of stitching, but it was 2 full days. So, this is what we look like now. I'm not stitching this in the called for colors. I've done an overdyed conversion, but they're kind of true to the colors that that Teresa picked. I just wanted a little bit more variegation. Two more whips. Are you still with me? Okay. The next one I worked on was Winter. Nope. Is it Winter Sleepwear? No, it's Christmas Tree Farm from the Prairie Schooler. Just like this. Again, it's a little glary because it's a but I love it. I am not stitching it in these this sort of limited palette. It calls for 7 different colorways of DMC, but I am doing something very different. This is what it looked like last time you saw it. These are my floss, so you can see it doesn't look anything like that very prim style. And that's what it looks like. Ooh, that's the back. That's what it looks like. So I've stitched this house over here, I've done some of the roofs, this tree. This had 2, it got called twice. But I'm really enjoying it. I think it's going to be really bright and colorful, which is really what I wanted. So I wanted like a bright little village. It's just on a 18 count Aida. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. There are some stitches for smoke and stars, and she had them done in a gray, which I might do. but I don't know, I haven't picked that color yet, so that's still kind of up in the air. I haven't done the chimneys yet either, because I'm not sure if I want to do them the color of the house or if I want to do them the color of the roof, or maybe a different color altogether. So still some questions to answer for that one, but really enjoying. I really was happy to bring that back out. Okay, the last whip was Junebug and Darlin' Take Time to Heal, which I hadn't worked on in such a long time. This is what it looked like in the whip parade. It got called, and my initial thought was, all those French knots. And then my brain was like, well, why don't you just put a couple in, and then you can say you touched it. So I did. So that's what it looks like now. I added some of the back stitching, and I put in some French knots. Is it a lot of progress? No, it's not. But is it progress? Yeah, it is, and I'll take it. And it wasn't as bad as I was thinking. I was dreading it more than anything. So yeah, I think it's gorgeous. My French knots are not perfect. This is like when I first started. This is them now. I started this in 2020 as well. I think this is one of the first things I got after I finished the office piece, because it was a full kit. And it comes with everything: the floss, the hoop, the pattern, needles, batting, and felt. So you get the little floss on a little library card, and it's great. It's a great little kit. I love the Junebug and Darlin' kits. I have a couple other ones that I haven't started. Because once you're like, wait, I could buy this and I could buy that, and that's all it takes. Okay, that was all the whips. That's a lot. That got one day of working on, if I didn't say already. So I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to get my purchases together, or my gifts that I got for my birthday, as well as my plans, and I'll be right back. So I'm back, and the first thing I'm going to go through is what my husband got me for my birthday. So I tend to create like a list of things that I'd like to get, that I resist buying for myself, and then he can go through that list and pick out the things that he likes or that he thinks I would like to stitch, which is everything. So the first thing he got me were a couple of Madame Chantilly charts. So he got me the Christmas tree. I have the winter one and the spring one. I haven't stitched them yet, and he actually picked this one out on his own, because the one I had asked for was this one, which is the Madame Chantilly Pumpkin Thieves. And then he saw the tree, and he's like, oh, that looks really pretty. So, so he picked these out, which is fun. I can't wait to get those started. And then I asked for Hannah Carter, 1838. Let me take it out of this bag. From Shakespeare's Peddler. Oh my goodness. Which is just a really nice black sampler. I really liked the quote at the bottom here of Hannah Carter, which is, have communion with few, be familiar with one, deal justly with all, and speak evil of none. So I love that sentiment, and I love this style. So got that one. And then I got the big one, which is Anne Grimshaw from the Scarlet Letter. Because if I'm having a black sampler moment, I have to have Anne Grimshaw, right? Like that's, I think there's like a law. Oh my goodness. It's in a like a sealed bag, and I don't want to open it just yet. So you know what Anne Grimshaw looks like, I'm sure. But he also got me the Soie d'Alger to stitch it. So I just need a big enough piece of fabric to stitch it. I might do it on 46 count. We'll see. And then I also got Jane Fittis from Hands Across the Sea, which is like the exact opposite of the black sampler. It's so bright and colorful and beautiful. But it does have the eyelet stitches. Again, shiny, shiny, shiny. Beautiful though. It's 201 by 246, so big, 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 big. And then I got a couple of things from Hillside Rookery. So I had wanted to try out their services, and this is their card. I'm sure if you've watched other Flosstubers, you've sort of seen this, but basically what Hillside Rookery does is they'll kit up things that call for NPI. So they do a lot of Kathy Barrick and Carriage House Samplings charts. So for example, Wash Day by Carriage House Samplings, they sell a kit that's just enough floss to do the chart. So try out silk if you haven't before, or if you don't have these particular colors. Like I have a lot of Kathy Barrick charts and I have a lot of Carriage House Sampling charts. I have some NPIs and things like that, but I don't have tons. I'd love to have more. I'm building up that collection, but this is a great way to sort of just be able to do the chart that you want. So I got Wash Day. I got the floss for My Day Complete, which is, I'll pop a picture in here. I don't have the chart handy because I already owned the chart. And for this one, oh my goodness, if I can get them out of the bag, which is great. They come in these little bags. It's fantastic. It's a big enough chart where they just send the NPIs that you need. Isn't that fantastic? So I got that one. I also got the Witches Academy, Witch Training Academy, which again, this one is not super big, so you get more black, the NPI N998, I love this so much. It's such a cost savings way. If you want to stitch with silk and you want to spend that little extra money to get it, but you don't necessarily want to have a lot of leftovers, it's a really good option. And they also sell charts, so I bought the Mind Independent and Free, which I didn't have the chart for, which I love. And I also got the floss, which there aren't that many, but they were all in stock and they were all grouped together, and I could just purchase them together. So go check them out. They're on Etsy. It came really fast. I ordered it and then it was here 2 days later. So it was like same day shipping, and got a nice little card. And it's Olivia is the proprietor. She sent a little thank you note. Just really good service, really good idea. Love it a lot. And yeah, absolutely. I'm going to shop there again. Okay. The last thing I got is I did get some cottage garden threads. I've got carriage house on the brain. I got the spooky set from Witchy Stitcher's website. So this is the spooky set. A lot of good Halloween colors. I've never tried cottage garden threads, so I thought this would be a good option to sort of try them out. I don't have anything in mind at the moment, but just really good Halloween colors that I'm looking forward to trying out. Okay. Last thing, plans. So I have a couple of plans. I'm going to finish out Arbitrary August for not this weekend, but the last couple of days next week in August, because this weekend I'm actually going to stitch on the Plum Street Samplers Equality Sampler, because tomorrow is Women's Equality Day. That's Saturday the 26th here in the US. So it's the perfect time to stitch the Equality Sampler. I am stitching this with the called for threads, DMCs, and the Weeks Die Works. And this is where I'm at currently. It doesn't look any different than it did during the whip parade, because I haven't worked on it yet. But my plan this weekend is to get some good stitches in this. And then my plan for September is I am going to participate along with Carolyn of Off the Grid Needle Arts and the owner of Evertote on September's Revenge. I bought the kit. This is the bag from Evertote. Got this nice black and khaki version. The chart is from Maximum Crossstitch. September's Revenge. The chart is beautiful. So I'm looking forward to stitching that. I am going to use the kit floss. So it's all of the called for Roxy Floss Co. They're not in a ring yet, so they're still a little, they're just hanging out in the bag at the moment. And I'm stitching this on a piece of 32 count cafe au lait. No, latte. A 32 count piece of latte. Even weave. So I think it's going to be gorgeous and I can't wait. I calculated I have to do 272 stitches a day to be done by September 30th. So that's not an insignificant amount, but it's also not impossible. I do think it's going to be hard on the days when I have to travel into the city, but maybe not as difficult on weekends, so there might be a little give and take. I don't plan on doing a daily video like I did with Flossmas, but I do plan on stitching this. And it could be that like I start really strong and then I, tend to work on something else, but that is the plan. And that's it. That is it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions, if there's anything I didn't mention that you'd like to know more about, please let me know below. Always happy to chat. And hopefully this time it won't be a month. School starts after Labor Day, so about a week and a half, and he's back in school, and it'll be a little bit easier for me to come on here regularly and provide a video. So I really enjoyed spending this time with you. Thank you so much, and as always, I hope you enjoy every stitch. Bye!